Statements by ministers. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, today I'm rising to inform the House of an extremely serious matter. I just informed the leaders of the opposition directly, but I want now to speak with all Canadians. Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the Government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Canada is a rule of law country. The protection of our citizens and defense of our sovereignty are fundamental. Our top priorities have therefore been, one, that our law enforcement and security agencies ensure the continued safety of all Canadians, and two, that all steps be taken to hold perpetrators of this murder to account. Canada has declared its deep concerns to the top intelligence and security officials of the Indian government. Last week at the G20, I brought them personally and directly to Prime Minister Modi in no uncertain terms. Any involvement of a foreign government in the killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil is an unacceptable violation of our sovereignty. It is contrary to the fundamental rules by which free, open, and democratic societies conduct themselves. As you would expect, we've been working closely and coordinating with our allies on this very serious matter. In the strongest possible terms, I continue to urge the Government of India to cooperate with Canada to get to the bottom of this matter. I also expect it to reiterate that its position on extrajudicial operations in another country is clearly and unequivocally in line with international law. I know many Canadians, particularly members of the Indo-Canadian community, are feeling angry or perhaps frightened right now. Let us not allow this to change us. Let us remain calm and steadfast in our commitment to our democratic principles and our adherence to the rule of law. This is who we are and what we do as Canadians. Monsieur le Président, je me lève.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to inform the House of Commons of an extremely serious issue. I just informed the leaders of the opposition directly. I now want to address Canadians. Over the last weeks, Canadian intelligence agencies have looked actively into credible allegations according to which there is a possible link between agents of the Government of India and the murder of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Canada is a state that upholds the rule of law. We protect our citizens and our sovereignty. These are essential. Our priorities were, first of all, to ensure that our security agencies permanently ensure the security of all Canadians and that all necessary measures be taken to hold those responsible for this murder accountable for what they did. Canada has expressed its concerns to high-level security and intelligence agencies of India. Last week, during the G20, I raised the issue very clearly with the Prime Minister Modi. The implication, or rather involvement, of any foreign government in the murder of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil is a violation, an unacceptable violation of our sovereignty. Such an act runs against the fundamental rules that operate for free, open, and democratic societies. We are working seriously on this file in coordination with our main allies. I continue to ask, with a great deal of firmness, that the Government of India cooperate with Canada to shed light on this situation. I also expect that the Government of India will reaffirm that its position on extrajudicial operations is clearly and unequivocally in line with international law. I know that many Canadians, especially members of the Indian community in India, are angry. They might even be frightened. We cannot let this change us. Let's remain calm and determined in our commitment to maintaining our democratic principles and upholding the rule of law. Let us remain true to who we are as Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Moments ago, the Prime Minister made me aware of intelligence from his authorities linking the Indian government to the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Before going any further, let me offer my condolences to the family of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in the loss that this represents and the outrageous murder that brought it about. If these allegations are true, they represent an outrageous affront to Canada's sovereignty. Our citizens must be safe from extrajudicial killings of all kinds, most of all from foreign governments. Canadians deserve to be protected on Canadian soil. We call on the Indian government to act with utmost transparency as authorities investigate this murder, because the truth must come out. We must know who performed the assassination and who was behind the assassination. Conservatives will continue to work to get these answers. All Canadians now stand with diaspora communities of Indian origin. And it is now in this time that the official opposition makes an appeal for calm. We are all Canadians. This is our country. We must be united for our home and for each other. Let us all join arms, lock arms and join hands in condemning this murder, standing with the family and friends of its victim. Let us all put aside our differences to stand up for the rule of law. One law for all of our people, a law made in this chamber by Canadians for Canadians. Thank you.
L'honorable député de la...
The Honourable Member for La Prairie.
On vient d'apprendre ce qui s'est...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We were just informed about this situation. We were stunned and shocked. It's entirely unacceptable, of course. First of all, I want to offer my condolences to the family and friends who were impacted by this act. Foreign countries have to respect our borders. It's up to our authorities to intervene on our territory to uphold our laws. We are a state with rule of law. Without exception, everyone has to respect this. It's a clear message that Parliament must convey to the guilty and to those who are the subject of what we're saying today. We have to remain calm, pay attention to developments in this file. In the meantime, the Bloc Québécois is offering its full cooperation to the Prime Minister for a situation that we cannot accept.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
What we have just learned today in the House is something that shocks the safety and security that so many Canadians rely on. It is outrageous, it is shocking, and it is going to have deep and devastating impacts to Canadians. I want to also begin by acknowledging the family of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, the family who's now learning that the loss of their loved one was potentially directly related to Indian government involvement. I spoke with Hardeep Singh Nijjar's son, and I could hear the pain of that loss in his voice. And I can only imagine how much more painful it is going to be knowing of this potential connection. On a personal reflection, I want to share with you what this means to the Sikh community. I grew up hearing many stories that if you raise concerns about human rights violations in India, that you might be denied a visa. That if you went back to India, you could suffer violence, torture, and even death. I grew up hearing those stories. But to hear the Prime Minister of Canada corroborate a potential link between a murder of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil by a foreign government is something I could never have imagined. To understand what that means to the community, this is a place that so many people around the world have sought as refuge. People have fled persecution in their home countries, where they were threatened by torture and violence and death, to come to Canada as a beacon of safety, a place where you could be safe, free from violence, be able to speak your thoughts, speak your mind, and not worry if you would wake up dead the next day or someone you loved would be tortured or killed. That safety and security that so many Canadians feel has now been rocked. It has been shocked and it's been destabilized. I want to send a message directly to activists across our country who have fled persecution, who speak truth to power, knowing of the real dire consequences to themselves and potentially their family. I want to speak directly to people of Indian descent who have come to Canada, who spoke justice and spoke truth to power, who challenged the oppressive practices of India, caste violence, violence against women, systemic abuse of minority communities, systemic abuse of the poor. I want to speak directly to those activists. Governments around the world are trying to silence you. The Indian government and the Modi government specifically is attempting to silence you. But truth cannot be silenced. Justice cannot and will not be silenced. We know that the practice of the Indian government has been one of division, of violence, persecution, attacking those that are critical of the government. It is now an important time to send a clear message. As a democratic country, as a country that respects the rule of law, what will be our response? I want people to know that as leader of the New Democratic Party, I will use every tool at my disposal to ensure that Canada uses every tool and every power of a democratic nation to bring those responsible to justice. We will ensure that no rock is unturned, that every possible link will be examined, that the public inquiry should also turn its eye to this with the full rigor of that public inquiry. We need to know the truth. We need to know all potential links, and anyone and everyone responsible should be brought to justice using the full power of a democratic nation. I call on our allies to condemn this violence, this direct violation of a sovereign nation's rights, to condemn this act in the harshest terms possible. This will require all democratic nations to come together to send a clear message about what this means, that a foreign nation kills a Canadian on Canadian soil. This is something that all democratic nations have to stand up and denounce clearly. And finally, I want to send a clear message to many people who are here learning of this and will be angry, are going to be afraid. And I understand why you would be angry and afraid. I call for everyone who is hearing this news now to come together, and not in anger, but in love for justice. There's a Sikh practice that the love of justice is what we should focus on, not the anger and the frustration and the fear. Focus on the love for justice, and I will do my part We will do our part in this chamber to ensure that justice is served using every tool that a democratic nation can do. ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਅੱਜ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਛੋਟੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹਿੰਦੁਸਤਾਨ ਦੀ ਹਕੂਮਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਪਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ 'ਚ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਖਤਰਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਤੇ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਮੇਰਾ ਤਾਕਤ ਹੈਗਾ ਮੈਂ ਹਟੂੰਗਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਜਸਟਿਸ ਤੇ ਇਨਸਾਫ ਮਿਲੂਗਾ ਇਸ ਮਾਮਲੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਹਟਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਲਿੰਕ ਹੋਵੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਪੂਰੀ ਖੋਜ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਨਿਆਂ ਆ ਜੋ ਜਸਟਿਸ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਇਨਸਾਫ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ I want you to know you can trust that New Democrats and everyone in this House will fight with everything we have to ensure that this serious, reprehensible matter is treated with the utmost seriousness and focus and that we bring justice. Thank you.
I believe the honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I seek unanimous consent to join my colleagues in response to this horrific and chilling news that the Prime Minister has shared with us. I was particularly grateful for the tone taken, first person to speak after the Prime Minister, the leader of the official opposition. I heed his words that we link arms and join hands so that the quest for justice, which was just so passionately and eloquently spoke of by the honourable member for Burnaby South, the leader of the Democratic Party, on behalf of all Greens, we pledge to join with our colleagues in nonpartisan fashion, support our government.
Member moving to motion, please say nay. Nay. I'm afraid we don't have unanimous consent on that one.